नमस्कार, आदाब, सत श्री अकाल दोस्तों। स्वागत है आपका एक बार फिर से हमारे YouTube चैनल ब्रास फ्यूजन्स पर, जहां आज हम आपके लिए लेकर आए हैं एक नया लेसन।
Once a year and at the start of every new Lok Sabha, 87 special address by Parliament. So normally, the normal convention is that when the Prime Minister is appointed, there will be a vote of confidence. Suppose it's it's a coalition government and it's not clear who is the biggest single biggest party. Should I appoint the leader of the single biggest party, or should I appoint the leader elected by the pre-poll alliance? Okay, and that is a discretion of the president. We saw paragraph 154 in Shamsher Singh's case. But the president will appoint, free of any aid and advice, because there is nobody to advise, the person whom he thinks will have the confidence of the House. So normally, if there has been a controversial thing, the first job after people have been sworn in and taken their oath and a speaker is appointed is to have this vote of confidence. However, there's also an implied vote of confidence that always happens, because whenever this joint sitting takes place, or the first special sitting in Article 87, after the president, there's always a resolution of thanks to the president, because you know that this address of the president is actually written by the government. Governmental policy is what the president states. There's a 74 looming at the background of that special address. And there's always a thanks resolution to the president. And though, of course, I'm stretching the language a bit far, but it serves in one sense as a vote of confidence again. Because if you do not get, the vote of thanks, thank you, that if you don't get the requisite votes to carry through that resolution, it means that the government doesn't have the confidence of the House. So there is always a whip that may be issued, bell will be rung. Bell, why do we ring the bell? To clear the lobbies and to get everybody into Parliament for voting. So normally that's the procedure that would be followed. Okay. So President, part of the Parliament, in that sense part of the legislature, but doesn't sit except in, as I mentioned, in 86 and 87. Now we just very quickly, I'm not going to go into this in detail, okay? But Rajya Sabha, look at Article 80. So 79 was Parliament, 80 was Rajya Sabha. I'm going to leave it to you to look at. It shall consist of 12 members and then 238, 12 nominated, and then there are other provisions for nomination also that are there. 331, Anglo-Indian, etc., etc. And then the rest will be, so Rajya Sabha, as you know, is a perpetual body, 1/3 every 2 years, and then it's by indirect voting. All those details are there. Okay. How the number of seats of Rajya Sabha are determined not based on the constituencies like Lok Sabha, but based on representation, population of the particular state. And so you will have a look at this. And the fourth schedule gives you that, and the voting is also there. Okay. Now come to 81. 81 is, of course, directly elected. And under Article 85, okay, and the law for elections is authorized by the Constitution, and we have Representation of People's Act 1950, Representation of People's Act 1951. Those of you who decide in the 6th semester to opt for election law, you will be looking at Representation of People's Act in detail. Under Article 85, the sessions of Parliament can be prorogued and the President also can dissolve. Summoning, proroguing and dissolution is a power of the President. Okay, and of course dissolution brings it to an end. It means fresh elections. Proroguing to the next session. Fine. Please look at this clearly. And when it gets dissolved, do all pending matters die out with the no? some bills continue, Article 107, but any other pending questions, any other pending resolutions that are pending, all will just collapse. Okay. And then 80, which is 81, which is Lok Sabha, based on adult franchise, which is Article 326. Now I'm going to look at two articles. Article 101 for qualification, 84 for qualification, 101 for disqualification. And similarly, the parallel provisions for the state legislature, 101, 191, 174, you will look at. Okay, so I'm going to only deal with 84 and 101. The qualification 191 is the I'm just saying which is the number. Have I mentioned the correct number? 173, sorry. 173 and 191 and 84 and 101. So I'm going to focus on 84 and 101. Language is the same. So just so that I don't waste your time repeating all these things. Now look at Article 84 and look at Article 101. Then we will come to SPI. Qualification for membership to Parliament. A person shall not be qualified to be chosen unless he, one, is a citizen of India and makes and subscribes before some person authorized in that behalf before the Election Commission an oath of affirmation according to the form set out in the third schedule. Now, this is an important amendment that got made by the 16th Amendment, that even before you are elected, in order to stand for election, you will have to make an oath of affirmation that you stand for the unity and integrity of India. So the 16th Amendment introduced two oaths. One oath even prior to standing and then one oath once you are elected. B, as is in the case of a seat in the Rajya Sabha, not less than 30 years of age, and in the case of Lok Sabha. So different age criteria for Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And C, and this is our important point, possesses such other qualification as may be described in that behalf by or under any law made by Parliament. And it is here that the Representation of People's Act 1950 and 51 come. So to be qualified, you must be of suitable age depending on Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, citizen of India, and you must have affirmed to do. Now look at 101. Now 101 says, 102. A person shall be disqualified for being chosen or for being a member of either House of Parliament. Okay. So it is both chosen and for being a member. And this is important because the disqualification strikes at the stage of getting elected, but it can also strike subsequently. After you have got elected, also you could be disqualified. Okay. So it's at both time periods. A, if he holds an office of profit. Okay. And we have got Jaya Bachchan's case, which we will be studying for what is an office of profit. But chronologically in my class, I'm going to come to office of profit later. Okay. But this office of profit, what is this office of profit, and why does it disqualify? Why philosophically? I mean, should you only live on the stipend that you get as a Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha? Is it possible for you to have another independent source of income? Can it be private? And if it is public, is it hit by the office of profit? Okay, I'll come to that. B, is of unsound mind and stands so declared by a competent court. So it's not just a medical certificate, but it must be a declaration by a court. Why I'm emphasizing this is that sometimes, Samiksha, I'll come to your point. Good question. Now, unsoundness, right? Unsoundness. Now, Why I say this is and has been declared by a competent court. Now go back to what you studied in first year. A person of unsound mind, is that a ground for a divorce? Under section 13, let's say, of the Hindu Marriage Act, is unsoundness of mind a ground for divorce? Please, anybody?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Does that unsoundness, is it accompanied by a clause which says, and so declared by a competent court, or does it merely say unsoundness of mind? Section 13, Hindu Marriage Act.
It is unsoundness of mind. Merely.
Does it say, and so declared by a competent court?
No, ma'am.
Please check and tell me. What does section 13 of Hindu Marriage Act say? And tell me now, what is the difference between 1032? What difference do you as lawyers look at and tell me? What's the difference? What's the significance? Hanji, boliye. Das Sudhir, are you correct? What you typed in? Is your answer yes or is your answer no? Yes, does section 13 require a declaration by a court? Section 13 of Hindu Marriage Act.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, so where are you, Das? He need not be. I am not checked, but it doesn't require. You just need, and just read out quickly to you, has been incurably of unsound mind or has been suffering continuously or intermittently from mental disorder of such a kind and to such an extent that the petitioner cannot reasonably be expected to live with the respondent. I want you to keep this in mind because, you know, in those divorce matters, a civil surgeon, that is a government-appointed doctor or somebody from NIMHANS, etc., those certificates are sufficient for you to come to the court and say, this person is of unsound mind, grant me a divorce. But when it comes to your ability or your disqualification under, it needs a declaration by the court. And the declaration by the court, if you look at the Mental Health Act, you have to move a petition to the court. The lawyer will come as expert witness, will testify, and then the court will be satisfied that this is a bona fide certificate, this indeed is a correct expert, and then will be issue the order accordingly. So, you know, if you look at the district courts and you look, for example, in the Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act, you will have to appoint a guardian for somebody not only who is underage and who has property, but also you may have to appoint a guardian for somebody who, due to unsoundness of mind, is unable to handle that particular property. And that appointment is always done by the court. The district judge operates as a court of wards or as the district judge under Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act, and you will have a legal guardian appointed. All that would require a declaration that it's of unsound mind. So you will see that the bar is a little higher. I have not yet come across cases, but I have not really also researched this, I must tell you frankly, about the threshold of unsoundness which is done for divorce matters as compared to Article 103. The procedure is different, but the threshold of the unsoundness, in my mind, would be the same. Mental Health Act. Now, come to C. And I want you to just quickly tell me, I don't want to spend too much time because we need to go to SP Anand. Otherwise, Vinayak, you'll have to wait till tomorrow. Is an undischarged insolvent. What does this mean? Undischarged insolvent?
There is a case of some debt regarding this person. Like with
so he has a debt which he cannot repay and he has no means to repay. At that point, you become insolvent. That is, if you are solvent, I don't know why there is this chemistry word. Aap bhul gaye ho, there's a solvent. Then you have enough money to pay. But if you become insolvent, you have no capacity to pay. Okay? And so when you look at the bankruptcy and insolvency code, once a company is declared insolvent, that its liabilities are greater than its assets, etc., then you're declared insolvent and you're compulsorily having to go into winding up proceedings under the IBC, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Here, it's a moot question. Why should you think philosophically, does it mean poor people cannot contest? Is it the same thing as saying that you must have money only then you can contest, or is insolvency saying something else? What is the difference? I'm putting a question to you. So, जिसके पास कोई asset ही नहीं है, he cannot stand for election. Is that what 10BC is saying? He is saying?
No, ma'am.
No. Who was that who spoke?
Ma'am, Mariam.
Mariam, what does it mean? Tell us, please. What's the difference between being insolvent and being poor without any assets? What's the difference?
Ma'am, insolvent means that he has already taken the debt, but he had not paid it. So it may be, yes. And it may be, ma'am, because of his dishonesty or, but ma'am, poor person has not taken any debt. So there is a missing of dishonest element.
Yes, Mariam, very good. So the thing is that we do not have a wealth requirement. Why I'm making this point is, in the 1919 Government of India Act and in the 1935 Government of India Act, in order to stand for elections in the Central Legislative Assembly, there was educational criteria and there was wealth criteria. You needed to have a certain amount of property so that only property people could get elected. That has been done away with. Yet we have an insolvency provision that remains. And as we've just now discussed, and as also many of you have also written in the chat box, there's a distinction. A person who's insolvent shows that he has the inability to live within his means. He has been declared an insolvent. And such a person is seen to be unfit for public office. So whereas a poor person can stand, not a person who's been declared insolvent. Now, you know, this current debate about the IBC, about banks, about bad debts, and even you take this Vijay Mallya, for example. Now, what happens if you are an entrepreneur? Normally, the company will take a debt, the company will be declared insolvent. But what happens if you, in addition, also put your personal money and say that I'm going to put my personal wealth also as capital into my enterprise? And then the enterprise, COVID ho gaya, downturn ho gaya, economic loss ho gaya, and you become insolvent. The danger of putting your own money, and maybe you have to put it because nobody else is willing to lend you money. But the danger is that apart from the institution going bankrupt, and you know the company is distinct from the owner, once the owner puts his own money, the other problem is that you're declared insolvent personally, and then there are many laws, and including this constitution, as I've pointed out to you, which will debar you. And therefore, as a matter of prudence, normally the company will be the one that takes out the loan, and the individual industrialist would normally not be putting in his own money. But then for small players, people who are running partnership, people who are running limited liability partnerships, if they did put their entire stock in for whatever reason, well, these are terrible consequences can follow. No, Shovanik, I'm not on the point about whether you're contesting under any political party or not. That individual, so I'm trying to make a distinction that insolvent is not the same as a poor person. Because sometimes I've had students who ask this question. Maybe you're all very smart and you can straight away understand, but I've had this in the past, which is why I'm making this distinction. And then comes the all-important E. Oh, D, okay, D, is not a citizen of India or has voluntarily acquired the citizenship of a foreign state. or is under any acknowledgement of allegiance or adherence to the foreign state. Now, India does not recognize dual citizenship. Okay, we are not studying Articles 5, 6, 7, and 8, which are the ones of citizenship. It's not in our course. But unlike some other countries which can allow you to be dual citizen, India doesn't recognize dual citizenship. If you have voluntarily taken up citizenship of another country, you can be an overseas citizen of India. But the OCI, that amendment still permitting them to stand for election, has still not been carried out. That amendment is still pending. Okay. So, you can be an OCI, you can even get a government job now. The new OCI rules and the amendment of Section 7A or B or something like that to the Citizenship Act allows you, but still it has not amended the Representation of People's Act. Okay, now let's come to E. Or is so disqualified by or under any law made by Parliament. Now, so one set of disqualifications is laid out in Article 103. And then it has this umbrella clause or in any law. And the key law for us is Section 8 of the Representation of People's Act 1951, which lays out additional grounds for disqualification. Now, what we are now going to look at is two things. And I'm going to begin with S.P. Anand versus Deve Gowda. Do I have time to start? Or is it time? Okay, I should take attendance. Vinayak, please come prepared tomorrow. I'm sorry, this introduction took a little longer than I thought. Come tomorrow. But everybody now will read S.P. Anand and B.R. Kapoor. They're extremely exciting cases. And if you want, you can also look at Lily Thomas, because I'll be taking up all three in one shot. So, Vinayak has volunteered for S.P. Anand. Who will volunteer for B.R. Kapoor, please, to at least read the facts for the class tomorrow to explain? Who would like to volunteer for B.R. Kapoor?
Ma'am, I can do.
Who is that, Rupali? Good.
Yes.
And who would like to do for Lily Thomas, which is Section 8.4 of the Representation of People's Act? Akshay, you will do it? Good. So 3 people, please do this and we'll take up our discussion. Why I'm taking up all 3 is because they're all interlinked, okay? And they're all dealing with this. And then your question also on, somebody had asked me about Anglo-Indian. I'll answer that tomorrow. Okay, now let me just take attendance. And you know the articles 79, 80, 81, 82, please, I'm not going to do more than what I've done just now. The rest of the details, you will all please read. Okay? I think some amount of self-study is also warranted in the case. Are you liking reading constitutional law cases now? Is it getting a little easier?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Okay, Nitin Kumar, Hemant Singh, G. Praveen Rajesh, Himanshu Singh, Dhruva Kumar, Vikramaditya Mishra.
Present, ma'am. Present.
Okay. Arjun Singh, Lucky.
Present.
Okay. Gautam Kumar.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Priyasha, are you there in class? Priyasha? Kirti Anand Sharma, Nilesh Kumar Singh, Titu Dhama.
Present, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yeah,
Nilesh.
Nilesh, okay. Sri Ram.
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Bhanu Pratap. Shweta.
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Akash Gupta.
Present, ma'am. Akash.
Okay. Nikhil Gupta. Swarit Uniyal. Surbhi Chhabra.
Present, ma'am. Surbhi.
Okay. Surbhi. Srishti Sharma. Sharan Mittal. Antika. Sharan, yeah.
Present, ma'am.
Yeah, Antika I marked you also. Das Sudhir I marked you. Vinayak I marked you. Rishabh Yadav.
Present, ma'am.
Okay.
दोस्तों, अगर आपको आज का लेसन पसंद आया हो तो वीडियो को लाइक करें। इसी के साथ अगर आपने अभी तक हमारा चैनल सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया है तो सब्सक्राइब के बटन पर क्लिक करिए और बेल आइकन दबाना ना भूलें, ताकि आपको एजुकेशन से रिलेटेड नए नए अपडेट्स मिलते रहें। और अधिक जानकारी पाने के लिए आप हमारे फेसबुक और इंस्टाग्राम पेज से भी जुड़ सकते हैं, जिसका लिंक डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में दिया गया है। धन्यवाद।